Elon Musk sure has a thing about the letter X because he just made a huge change to Twitter, something he'd been hinting about for a while. He's changed Twitter to X. What's all that mean? We're joined by Sherr, our tech expert in the KRLD Zoom room. Ian, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks for having me.
So what is the deal with Elon and the letter X?
It's oddly enough, he has a very long history with this letter. Notably the Tesla Model X, right? A long time ago, he wanted to spell out sexy. So the Model S, the Model X, the Model Y, and then he couldn't do the Model E. So he did a 3 instead, which is the internet's version of an E. And he also did the X for SpaceX. And now he says, look, I'm going to have Twitter renamed into X. And what he wants it to mean is that it'll be the everything app. It'll do everything. I don't know whether it will or not, but that's his goal. And there's a whole new logo on the website and everything.
When you say everything, it kind of reminds me of like when you log into Google and you have your Google account and then you have all the other things that you can log into, your maps and your email and all that. Is that kind of what he is describing?
Possibly. I mean, he's being very broad in his interpretation of what he's talking about right now. And I think part of the reason is that, he sees a lot of these apps that exist, especially in Asia, like WeChat, where you can do commerce and you can do social media and you can do shopping and everything. It is the everything app. And there have been people who've tried to do that in the United States, and it has not been able to translate, right? Part of it is cultural, part of it is where we are in terms of how we handle the internet, part of it is privacy concerns and a million other things. And so it'll be interesting to see if he could actually do this, right? Kind of take the idea of PayPal, take the idea of Twitter, take the idea of everything else he does, jam them all together and turn it into the biggest thing since sliced bread. I have no idea if he can pull that off, but it's interesting to see him try.
What happened to the whole notion of when he hired a new CEO at Twitter that he would step away from operations and concentrate only on Tesla and SpaceX?
Well, to be fair, he said that he was only going to step away from the administrative side and he would continue focusing on product. So he has kept his word, at least it seems, on some level. But also, I think we've all learned seeing him make promises and then go back on them. You can only really trust him as far as you can throw him, it seems. And so, look, that's how he does business. It's worked for him so far. We'll see if it continues that way.
Now, the company as a whole, is it still Twitter, even though he's rebranded the look of it, or does that also go into paperwork as well?
It's already been put through paperwork, apparently. In fact, when Twitter was bought, I believe either at that moment or it was after, I've lost track of time, it was actually known as X Corp. So this is not something entirely new. The branding thing is interesting, though, because, he's tossing away one of the most well-recognizable symbols on the planet, right? The Twitter bird.
Yeah.
And not to mention the Twitter brand. So, that's something pretty big to throw away. But at the same time, I have to point out, I think that in a lot of ways, he's saying this is the break with the past, right? Just like Facebook rebranded itself to Meta. And while a lot of people laughed at Mark Zuckerberg for doing that, he was like, this is a new chapter for us. And so in a very similar way, although a lot more permanent because he's not keeping the Twitter name, it seems like Elon Musk is doing the same.
So with that, we did see some things that were temporary when he first came in, changing the look. This is not going to be temporary then, when going back to saying that the paperwork has been done. This is what it is moving forward.
Well, it's X Corp, but you can run it as anything, right? Let's say that he suddenly realizes that, nobody wants to do business with X Corp, they want to do business with Twitter, you could change it back at any moment, right? He still owns
he could. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he can do whatever he wants. As long as he has the legal means to do so, right? With the trademarks and all that stuff, he can. I mean, he could futz around till the end of time. And I imagine, honestly, as this continues, that will be what we see, is a lot of back and forth and debate.
Yeah, if you type in x.com, it moves you to a Twitter login page as well.
Yeah.
What is something like this, and this continued controversy over Twitter or X, what does that do for something like Threads, which had kind of lost some momentum lately?
Well, it leaves an opening, right? Twitter, it's very interesting. I always keep getting asked, why do we even care, right? Not so many people use it anymore. The president doesn't use it to do policy anymore. There's like, what is it that people care about? And the reality is that it's still an influential place that people gather, right? That it's celebrities, media personalities, politicians, still, they're all using Twitter. And so even though not that many people use it, right, comparatively, there are multiples more using Facebook and Instagram and everything, it still matters. And so what could happen? Well, if this kind of chaos continues, it's possible that another competitor could come in, like Mark Zuckerberg's Threads or Mastodon or any of these other weird names we've come up with over the last couple of years. One of them could come in and take the crown as the most influential social network. And that would be interesting.
Yeah, it would have to be something that a big breaking thing that comes across, and everyone starts throwing it to Threads for as far as gathering information, as opposed to what happened originally with Twitter. It became a source for a lot of people to post what's going on in the world, especially with big news.
Exactly. Well, and to follow live news, right? I remember during the Boston Marathon attack in particular, I remember spending so much time on Twitter following every twist and turn. And there's so many news stories like that. But that one, I really remember Twitter kind of was very special at that moment, right? It really helped out with a lot of that. And I am curious if something like that can come up again, right? And whether or not we'll have that kind of magical connection of everyone on the same platform doing that stuff together. Right now, it seems as though really a lot of people are looking for an off-ramp from social media. I'm exhausted by it. I know a lot of other people are. NPR has literally said they're done with it. So, I think that on some levels, maybe this is the end of that period of time on the internet.
What about the Twitter Blue users who have been paying for a subscription? How does this affect them?
So it really is just a branding thing, right? I mean, you go to Twitter's website now, and if you go, the Twitter word is nowhere that I can see. I'm looking on it. I do see the word tweet. I'm sure that'll change at some point. I don't know what the equivalent of a tweet is from X Corp. We'll find out, I guess. But, they have the logo and stuff. I imagine that all the rules and all the way that things were set up aren't going to change, at least today. But eventually, one of the things that's really important to keep in mind is that Elon Musk has made clear he believes the future of his company is people paying him to use it. And that is the exact opposite of how social media has been constructed over the last 20 years, right? Up until now, mostly it was free. We came onto it and we were eyeballs for advertisers, and that's what paid for it. Now he's saying that's not working and he wants to find a different way. And hey, maybe he will, maybe he won't.
That's Ian Sherr. Thanks very much.
Thanks for having me.